One topic that started with the release of Sonic Colors Ultimate and grew even more popular with the release of Sonic X Shadow Generations coming up is the idea surrounding Sonic remasters, or more specifically, what games should be remastered. We've had a lot of remasters recently. We had Sonic Origins, which gave us all of the classic 16-bit Genesis games. We had Sonic Colors Ultimate, which was basically unheard of. They were actually taking a past game and remastering it with modern visuals and putting it onto next gen consoles. Was that amazingly done? No, but hey, it's the thought that counts, that some people say. And now we have Sonic X Generations, which is going a whole step further. Not only are they bringing back Generations, but they are significantly changing it story-wise with different writing and a whole redub. And we're getting an entirely new game packaged with it, basically, with Shadow Generations, which is going to basically follow Shadow with all new levels, all new moveset, all new story, all new bosses. It's absolutely crazy. They're really realizing a lot of the missed potential of the original Generations and going all in with it, and that is a win, however you look at it. And yeah, but there's still the idea of, past Sonic games that, maybe deserve the same treatment. This obviously, this is a long-running franchise that's over 30 years old. So naturally, there's going to be some titles that people want to see come back. But people can't really seem to agree which title specifically should be remastered next. You got some people, a part of the adventure era, want to see those games come back. You got others with more obscure titles. Let's just talk about it. I want to go through each of the mainline 3D games that I've yet to receive a remaster and really just kind of give my own personal thoughts as to not only the likability of it ever happening, but also if it should happen, and if so, what should they do, what changes should they make. So let's just talk about it. But before we dive in, remember, I do upload a lot of Sonic videos and I do stream a lot of Sonic content. So if you do like this blue hedgehog just as much as the rest of us do, be sure to subscribe and also leave a like on the video if you end up enjoying it. I'd sincerely appreciate it. One click helps an absolute ton. And with that said, let's get into some remaster discussion, baby. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and kick it off with Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. I'm looping this in as one duology because both of these games are kind of equally matched when it comes to just how iconic they are, the overall quality, just their place within the community. Adventure 1 and 2 are kind of viewed as like the quintessential Sonic games. It was the first time Sonic was brought into 3D. Not only did they do a good job of just being a fun, high-octane, speed-based platformer, but also what makes it more unique than the games that came after it is that it's infused with the classic Sonic sensibilities. So you have actual good momentum, you have fully controllable, fully explorational 3D level design. These games, nothing beats them to this day. These are still, personally speaking, my favorite games in the series, and so naturally, everyone wants to see these games remastered, and I don't. I don't. And I should be more specific, okay? Because, a lot of people have been on my case recently because I've apparently just been having bad takes, according to a lot of the recent YouTube comments about my discussions. Oh my god, I can't speak. So, let me clarify. Am I against the idea of a remaster? Kinda. But, am I all for a modern-day port? Yes, and let me explain why. The adventure games are a phenomenon where they are still just like beloved and almost unanimously celebrated till this day. Most 3D Sonic games eventually are kind of like turned on and not really looked back fondly once the rose-tinted glasses are lifted. But the adventure games, they're just phenomenal gameplay-wise and storyline-wise, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, and look, I'm just used to getting pushed back at this point. I do not trust Sonic Team to do these games justice. These games were spearheaded by really talented developers and written by some of the most talented writers that have worked in the series who understands the core of Sonic. And I'm sorry, but I do not trust the current devs to... Because the current devs haven't worked on a game like Sonic Adventure in forever. Most of these Sonic platformers nowadays are filled with, a bunch of dash rings and very automated and are, beholden to the boost formula. Whereas these games are purely, explorational, dynamic 3D platformers. And I don't know if they necessarily have the experience and the know-how to do these properly, to add the new content, if that new content would be any good, or if it would detract from the experience. personally speaking, subjectivity-wise, my main concern is the writing. I'm not going to say much about Ian Flynn because, you know, I usually get flamed when I mention Ian Flynn's name. But I do want to ask you something. I want to ask you guys a favor, okay? I want you to just push aside your hate or love for Ian Flynn as a writer, and I want you to consider what good would come out of a remaster and a redubbing and new writing for the adventure games when it comes to the discussion, the larger discussion that is, of game preservation, okay? Because the thing about Generations being rewritten, a lot of us will excuse that because, I mean, it's Generation. That game barely had a story. But the thing about the adventure games is not only are they a lot less accessible than Generations is, but they have arguably the best Sonic stories ever. Shiro Maikawa absolutely cooked with SA2. The people who worked on SA1 were phenomenal. Like, those stories still hold up beautifully till this day, and they're wonderful. And I think everyone should have the opportunity to experience those as it is. And I do not think a new writer coming in and basically redoing all of the dialogue and recontextualizing certain things and retconning other things would just overall hinder the original story. And I think I just don't agree with that from a game preservation's sake. I don't like, you know, history being revised and rewritten and other writers' work basically being erased from the mainstream series. So yeah, that's my biggest thing. It wouldn't be... It's still a big deal, but it wouldn't be as big of a deal if it weren't the adventure games we were talking about. But again, these have some of the best Sonic storytelling just ever. And I know of that, personally speaking. I respect Ian, but I absolutely do not trust him to do these stories justice. So yeah, just the inexperience of current Sonic Team when it comes to adventure formula games, combined with my apprehension of Ian as a writer, and just for the overall larger discussion when it comes to game preservation, I do not think these games need to be retouched on at all. Only when it comes to visuals. That's why I said I am in favor of a port, because a port, all that will be is it'll just be ripping the game, and it will just be available on newer consoles. So we are fixing the accessibility issue. Everyone will be able to experience it. And you know what? You can also touch up some of the visuals, make the game run like completely smoothly, and just change up some of the lighting, make it more dynamic. And this will also be their chance to do a port of the Dreamcast original instead of the Nintendo GameCube port, which, as we all know, was not really that great, a huge downgrade from the Dreamcast visuals. So you can make that version of the game more accessible, and you can price it at maybe $5 or $10. Pricing it any higher for a game that came out like nearly 30 years ago would be absolutely egregious. So yeah, I'm in favor of a port of the adventure games, but a remaster, and especially a remake, I would not want at all. Next, we have Sonic Heroes. Sonic Heroes. Man, that theme is so catchy. What's interesting about this game is there actually have been a lot of leaks that this game will be remade. And unlike the adventure games, I am not as against a remake or new touch-ups as I would be with the adventure duology, because those games, in my opinion, despite their flaws, are next to perfection. I think the good massively outweighs the bad. Whereas Heroes is interesting. Sonic Heroes, I believe, is a severely underrated game, and it's very overhated. The team dynamic works really well. The stages, the level design is absolutely spectacular. The characterizations are on point as usual when it comes to the older 3D games. Yeah, no, it's overall a fun time. But because of the technological limits and just overall the crazy production of the game, it is a very, 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 very janky experience, alright? Sonic Heroes is probably one of the more janky 3D platformers. There are a lot of deaths in this game that will not be your fault. And I think a remake would definitely help realize the game's full potential, make it a lot more accessible for newer players, and overall just make it a fun time. I still do not trust Sonic Team with a adventure style game, But, I mean, Heroes doesn't really play similarly to a lot of the Adventure and Dark Era games because of the team mechanics. So I would be interested to see how Sega would kind of revamp that and make it different and try to, like, improve upon it. So, yeah, again, it's a very experimental title, so it's only natural that a theoretical remake dives into that experimentation and goes even further with it. Narrative-wise, I'm still not... The one thing I'm not looking forward to in a Heroes remake is it being rewritten because, again, it's not even just a case of whether you like the newer writing or not. It's just a case that the newer writers clearly differ a lot from the old writers. The old writers and the new writers write Sonic the Hedgehog very differently. And they just wouldn't really be able to recapture the essence and the thematic, like, just genius of Heroes. Because while Heroes is a very corny game and the localization did fuck it up for a lot of people, it still has a very wonderful, whimsical story. And I wouldn't be a fan of it being rewritten. But yeah, I mean, I would be down for a Heroes remake, and you know that seems most probable because we actually have seen leaks about that. So why not? Let's get it. All right. Moving on, we have Shadow Hedgehog, and we can go ahead and pull one out for Shadow Hedgehog. I think we can all agree, we don't really have to spend much time on this. This game's never getting remastered. This game's never coming back. This game is interesting because it has the same level of hatred that 06 has when it comes to just casual gamers and just its overall reputation, but it doesn't really have the stardom and defenders that 06 has. Instead of being a iconic bad game, this is just seen as a bad game. Me personally, I like Shadow Hedgehog despite its many flaws. And I wouldn't really mind seeing it get remastered because, again, just like Heroes, this title was very experimental, and I would be interested to see how Sonic Team would approach a 3D platformer that involves shooting and optional side quests and divergent paths. Actually, you know what? I was just about to say that I wouldn't really be down for a rewrite of this game either, but the English localization of this game is so bad. I unironically think that Ian's version would probably be better, honestly, because the English localization is fucked. It doesn't matter anyways if you're playing Japanese, so yeah. That's my 2 cents. Shadow Hedgehog is never seen a live date. Let's move on. So, Sonic 06. I think we can also all agree that 06's chance of being remastered or remade in any official capacity is very low, but it does stand significantly greater of a chance than, say, Shadow Hedgehog, for the sole reason that this game actually is becoming a cult classic, because yes, this game was fuck-busted, its plot made no sense, it was very janky, easily way jankier than Heroes, it was a mess, but it was a mess with the heart of gold. Underneath the like levels and levels of shit, there is a pile of gold nuggets, alright? The level design is actually really fun. The amount of characters and their different playstyles adds some much needed variety in the overall game. The story, even though it is overly convoluted and makes absolutely zero sense logically, still has some of the best characterization we've seen and has some absolutely wonderful themes. So it's only a matter if you care more about themes and characterization than you do like actual logic and plot. And I'm kind of the former, so 06 is one of my favorite stories in the series. But yeah, so 06 has a lot more potential than Shadow Hedgehog has. A lot of people said that if 06 got to be if it had the opportunity to be fully finished, it probably would have been the best Sonic game ever. And we saw that with Project 06, which is a fan remake of the game. And if the fan remake is that good, you can only imagine how good a full budgeted remake would actually look like. And not only that, but it being rewritten. You know what? Never mind. I was about to say it being rewritten could be good because they could actually fix a lot of the over-convoluted plot holes and shit upon having a second draft, because it's very obvious that this game had a first draft and not much else. They did not have a lot of time to actually hone in a lot of like the factors of the story. But again, this is probably one of the last games I'll say it for, but the new writers just would not do this game justice at all. And yeah, I don't want to become redundant, so let's move on. Next, we have Sonic Unleashed. So this game is not only the most likely to get remade, but also my most preferred to get remade. And that is solely because you cannot find this game anywhere if you do not have an Xbox, okay? PlayStation players are completely boned, and unless you can run emulation, you're screwed if you're playing a PC trying to play Unleashed. And even with emulation, Xenia, the ROM Xenia, whatever you want to call it, is like kind of bugged. So you gotta install like a patch for it. It's a whole hassle to play Unleashed nowadays. And yeah, they desperately need to port this. I would honestly, this is like I mentioned, I'd prefer this got a port because I just want to play the game. I don't want to play a newer, overpriced version of the game. But if they were to, let's say, remake this, I'd be down, honestly. I think they would actually be able to maybe make the Hedgehog more fun, or if they're more ashamed of it, they can kind of tone it down so we can have spend more time in the daytime stages. The story to Unleashed is really good, and I don't think it would be done justice, but it's also very simple, and this is one of those stories that's also very easy to get right, because Unleashed has a pretty simple but heartfelt narrative. I think this is one that Ian Flynn could pull off pretty well. Because it's not really like super heavy in its theming, and it doesn't have it's not really juggling a lot of characters. It's Unleashed. I would classify it as kind of like a Pixar story, if that makes sense. Now, one interesting thing that I want to bring up is because, you know, Sonic X Shadow Generations, that remaster basically brought on a Shadow extension. A lot of people are saying, like, past Sonic games should also do the same thing. Like, for example, we have Sonic and Blaze 06, or maybe, I don't know, Sonic and Tails Heroes, or just obviously not that, but you know, like basically like remasters that bundle another character along with it as a tagline. And with Unleashed, a lot of people are saying a Sonic X Silver Unleashed would be pretty cool. Like there's been a lot of concept art and, you know, fan stuff made for that. And I don't think this will ever happen. It won't, because Silver is not marketable at all. And he also has nothing to do with Unleashed. But I did think of something interesting that I just kind of want to throw out there. What if we got a Sonic X Amy Unleashed? This is going to sound really random, but remember, Amy is actually in Unleashed. You don't really see her do a lot. It doesn't really contribute that much to the story, except for just being a welcome, you know, addition. It's always nice to see Amy. We love Amy in this household. So I would think it'd be pretty fun if like they added like a little extension, like an episode Amy, where we got to kind of play as her in Spagonia or just wherever, and kind of like do optional stuff around the town while like the whole Earth is crumbling, maybe help people out. It'd be cool because we haven't really controlled. Oh wait, I was about to say we haven't controlled Amy in a long time in a 3D setting, but I forgot the Final Horizon existed. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be cool if they did that. I don't know. It'd just be some cool Amy love. But yeah, Unleashed most likely to get a remaster, and the one that I would most prefer. Obviously, Ultimate got the remaster treatment. It wasn't good, and Generations got the remaster treatment, and that remains to be seen. It's looking pretty good though. Now we're moving on to the later games, and I'm not going to go past 8th generation, so we only got 2 left to discuss. Sonic Lost World. This game is really interesting. Will they ever remake this game? My honest thoughts is absolutely not. And it has nothing to do with the game's quality, even though I think Lost World is pretty bad. But what it really mainly involves is just the overall, like, just atmosphere in which this game was made. Sonic wasn't doing well in the 2010s, and so this was just a very blatant attempt to just copy, like, Super Mario World. And it's just disgusting. Like, it's crazy to see Sonic try to copy what he was conceptualized to be the polar opposite of. Like, just on principle, this game failed just on the conception stage. And a lot of people don't like this game, and it just wouldn't really mix well with the new writing. Now, again, this game isn't really widely accessible because it did only release on the Wii U. And it's on Steam, but speaking personally, for a reason, my version of Lost World on Steam runs like a fucking train wreck. So, I mean, they could, like, it would make the game more accessible for all 2 of the people who want to play Lost World on, like, you know, modern consoles. But I think this game is better left forgotten. Obviously, that's not my say. I think everyone should deserve to play all of the games, and game preservation is very real, and so I wouldn't be, again, this is not a game that should just be ported. I should have just had this video games that I want to see ported, because I think ports are way better than the idea of a remaster, where nothing is altered about the game that changes it from its original counterpart or undermines the value. And it fixes the accessibility issue, and you can still do light touches to the lighting or just like the performance and frame rate. and you can just put it out for a cheap price. It's just everyone wins. There's no risk. There's only reward. With a remaster, it's high risk, high reward. With a port, you just put it out, and unless you did a really bad job, then really nothing can go wrong. So. Yeah, I don't see this getting a remaster though anytime soon, and honestly, personally speaking, I don't really want one, but it was worth bringing up. And lastly, we got Sonic Forces. What would they even do? What would they even do? What would be the point? I don't even know why I put this on the list, because let's just be real. This game's never coming back. All right. Because it lasts for 3 hours. This is a 3-hour game that everyone like unanimously does not like. And not only that, but it's also widely accessible in pretty much all platforms. At least 8th generation and onwards. So it's just what would be the value here? There would be no value. There'd be no purpose. And yeah, honestly, for the better. Fuck Forces. And yeah, we have arrived at the end of the video, and it was actually really fun just kind of like brainstorming and just like talking out loud about how I personally feel about all these games getting potential remaster supports in the future. Just to like basically give a concise summary, the Adventure Duology, I do not think Sonic Team or Ian Flynn should touch it with a 10-foot pole. They need to do a simple porting job. And that's all I would want from it. Just leave those games alone, please. Heroes would actually be very beneficial from a gameplay stance, because again, that game was very janky. Shadow the Hedgehog is never going to happen, but it would be interesting. 06 also is likely very won't happen, but if they did, it would be the coolest thing ever, and the entire fandom would rejoice. Unleashed is very likely to happen, and it should happen, but if they do a remaster, I think it will be more similar to Colors Ultimate than it would be Shadow Generations. Instead of seeing an entire transformation of the game, I think they'll add in like new features, maybe new cosmetics, maybe some new levels, but it will still remain mostly the same. Lostville, never happening, and Forces never happening, and good for both of those cases. But let me know what you guys think of some Sonic games that you would love to see remastered. If you disagree or agree with any of the ones that I mentioned on this list, do let me know. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Remember, I upload Sonic content daily, and I stream Sonic content daily, so be sure to subscribe, because, you know, we could use some more Sonic fans out here. Hopefully this video doesn't anger a lot of people like my last two have. Yeah, have a great day, everyone, and peace out.